One of the few position groups that appeared going into 2024, the BYU adequate Big 12/Power 5 depth seems to be a lot thinner suddenly with Aidan Robbins deciding he's going to the NFL. We're talking BYU running backs and what the Cougars do to respond to the loss of their starter. It's all ahead on today's show.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jake Hatch, your host here on Locked On Cougars, your resident BYU insider. Thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Appreciate all of you for being everydayers with us right here on the podcast. Want to remind you guys, please sign up for the subtext community we've got rolling here with Locked On Cougars. Essentially, it's exclusive access and text conversations you have back and forth with myself, insider tidbits, updates, live time when it comes to practices and games and the like. You can join the subtext community by clicking the link in the show notes below, whether it's on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Another quick reminder that we are your original daily podcast focused on all things BYU sports, and we are brought to you today by our friends over at FanDuel. Today's episode is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Simple as that. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. All right, let's dive right in. The big news of the day is the BYU is losing a running back. Aidan Robbins declaring his intention to enter the 2024 NFL draft yesterday. And frankly, a bit of a stunning move. I thought he would come back and try and prove he could have a healthy season, prove himself once again to the Power 5 level, but he ultimately has opted to make the jump to the NFL and find a way into the league if at all possible. Now, in terms of his production this past year, obviously his final two games for BYU in a Cougar uniform, probably his finest performances to date. He ends up finishing his run at BYU with 485 yards on 101 carries, averaging 4.8 yards per carry, and also had the one touchdown on the season, if I recall correctly. So not awful stats considering how much time that Aidan Robbins missed this season. But honestly, really, he's got about a season and a half of tape to show the NFL. He did not play to any significant level at Louisville before transferring to UNLV, and in his own season with the Red Rebels, ended up tallying over 1,000 yards. The hope was he was going to be able to prove that against Power 5 competition this year. And yes, he did that. He did have some good performances, particularly against the Oklahoma Sooners. But is that going to get him a job in the NFL? I'd be hard-pressed to say that Aidan Robbins is going to be drafted in this upcoming NFL draft. I think that he is putting his eggs in the fact that the NFL has devalued the running back position so highly that even if Aidan Robbins is an undrafted free agent, which I would totally peg him for right now, unless he has a monster pro day and really kills it in his interviews and that type of stuff, maybe sneaks in to the 6th or 7th round. But regardless, he's looking at, I think, saying, you know what, I've been in college a long time. I've obviously got my undergrad degree. He was working on an MBA at BYU in the Marriott School of Business. I don't know if he was in the 2-year program or their accelerated 1-year executive MBA program, but regardless, he was working towards a master's degree, and if that's close to being done, maybe he's just decided, you know what, I just want to move on with my life and play football and see what's next for myself. So you wish him well. Honestly, I'm going to say that right now. I wish Aidan the best. He was a very, very good individual to have around the BYU football program, was a great representative of the university while he was there. This is a kid that spurned BYU back in his original recruiting process as a high schooler to stay home and go to his hometown school of Louisville. Then ultimately decided I need to find a new way to find myself on the field, went to UNLV, and then ultimately ends up at BYU. And I thought was a very, very fun kid to get to know. And I only wish we had more time with him because honestly, I thought if BYU had him and LJ Martin in particular coming back to form a 1-2 tandem at running back for BYU in 2024, that would help whoever the starting quarterback was going to be for BYU. To have two proven running backs at the Power 5/Big 12 level would have been a really, really nice thing to have. But now BYU turns their attention attention, and they will have LJ Martin leading the way. And we'll talk more about BYU's running back position in particular here momentarily. But also one other note real quick on the Aidan Robbins side of things is that it leaves a big opportunity for the other running backs remaining on BYU's roster to step in and fill that hole. So yes, it's not insignificant that Aidan Robbins is exiting the BYU football program, because I would have expected him wholeheartedly to come back next year and hopefully go out and put up a 1,000-yard season against Big 12 competition and bolster his draft stock. This is not a kid who has served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and he's pushing 25, 26 years old and just really feels his time is passing him by in terms of his earning opportunity in the NFL. Aidan's 22 years old? I'm not convinced that another year in college would have hurt him to any significant degree, but apparently he has decided that he needs to make the jump now and find whatever way he can do that. Even if it doesn't work out at the NFL level, could he join the newly merged USFL/XFL venture and prove himself there? That is a possibility as well, but you wish him well and thank him for all that he gave to the university, even amidst some of the injuries that he dealt with. He dealt with a pretty significant rib injury that cost him a big chunk of this past season. It's kind of one of those things you look at and say, what could have been had he stayed fully healthy for BYU and had he been fully healthy from the jump? Maybe BYU gets some better rushing performances just with his ability as a 6'3", 240-pound bulldozer to pick up some hard yardage early on in the season that may have gotten them a win or two extra. You never know, but it's one of those hypotheticals that can be debated for the BYU football program. The other thing about it is, how will the NFL gauge him as a big body back? Are they going to say he's too big? Is he not nimble enough? Does he have the requisite speed? That are all questions that are going to have to be answered in the pro day portion of his preparation for the NFL draft. And I wonder, the other thing about this is, and many of us have forgotten this, and I forgot it at points myself, is that the Big 12 is not having individual school pro days. They're having that conference-wide pro day down at the Star in Dallas, Texas. It's going to be taking place at the practice facility and all the other stuff that the Dallas Cowboys have built up in Frisco, Texas. It's an invite-only event. Will Aidan Robbins get an invite to that event? Because if he doesn't, where else is he going to work out for NFL scouts? So this is a risky proposition, in my opinion, for Aidan Robbins, but he is the man that has to make the decision that's best in his best interest in his own mind. He's a grown man. You got to give him that opportunity. And like I said, I wish him nothing but the best and hope that all goes well for him. But now BYU turns their attention to their other running backs and guys like LJ Martin on the roster. We'll talk about LJ Martin and the other running backs who can step in and hopefully provide the punch that you would have thought that Aidan Robbins could provide in 2024. And we'll get to all that as we continue on right here on Locked On Cougars. Let's get a word in on our friends over at FanDuel real quick. Of course, as the weather gets colder, the NFL offers are staying hot with our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Simple as that, my friends. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. Whether you're looking at the NFL, you want to bet on the upcoming college bowl season, basketball, both NBA and college hoops with the BYU Cougars in action tonight against the Denver Pioneers. Go to FanDuel, have some fun with it. They also have spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And it's all available on an easy-to-use app. And there's a wide range of betting options, and including daily specials as well. So take advantage of all of it, my friends. It's all courtesy of your friends at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season and have some fun this winter with football, basketball, and everything else in between. It's all courtesy of FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at UCCU. They have the Learn and Earn banking app that is paying your entire family to learn about money. All of us want to be smarter when it comes to our finances and money overall. That is where Learn and Earn steps in. It breaks down financial topics into fun, bite-sized educational games and lessons featuring quizzes and trivia. And every time a family member completes a topic, you earn points can be accrue and be redeemed for gift cards to stores like Amazon, Apple, Sephora, Walmart, Nike, and many, many more, my friends. There's age-appropriate content for every member of the family who can compete against one another and track your progress on leaderboards as well. Learn and Earn is available inside the UCCU mobile banking app, making it easy to do really literally anytime, anywhere. So take advantage of it. The more you play, the more you learn, and the more you learn, the more you earn. It's all courtesy of UCCU and their Learn and Earn app, part of UCCU's award-winning Be Money Smart Youth Banking Program, helping kids, teens, and parents have fun with becoming more financially literate together. That's the point there, my friends. It's all courtesy of UCCU. Love where you bank. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Hope you're having a fantastic Tuesday whenever you hear this. I want to encourage you once again, sign up for the Subtext community. It's a 14-day free trial. It's a direct line of communication with myself, literally coming to your phone via text. You got questions, want live updates when I'm at games, out at practices, and the like. You can join now and obviously be a part of it. You have a 14-day free trial, and it's $4.99 a month afterwards. And obviously, it's just another way you can support the podcast and be a bigger part of the Locked On Cougars community. So thank you in advance for doing just that. By the way, big ups to a couple of our listeners. We're actually able to send 4 different people out to BYU Basketball tonight, thanks to some of the ticket donations that have come in. So thank you to all of you for that. We'll talk a little bit more about BYU hoops here in a moment. But let's talk about BYU's running back position. Then we can call this essentially one of our debriefings for BYU's running backs. With Aidan Robbins' departure for BYU, how thin is BYU's running back position? Truthfully, well, honestly, it's pretty darn thin, because the problem is you have LJ Martin, who's a very proven back. Obviously, as a true freshman, 18-year-old coming out of Canutillo High School in El Paso, Texas. He's a 4-star prospect, and he proved why, because he was an impact guy for BYU before he got injured, and obviously that kind of cost him the back half of the season as Aidan Robbins' star really started to ascend once again after his own injuries. The thing about it is he ended up having 4 rushing touchdowns in his 5 games as a BYU Cougar. It's the most for a BYU freshman since Luke Staley, some guy named Luke Staley back in 1999. It appears that he will be the featured guy for BYU in 2024. He finished with 518 yards on 109 carries, had the aforementioned 4 touchdowns. And then after that, huge question mark for BYU at running back. They're going to have to hit the transfer portal and bring in at least one guy to provide depth. Could Miles Davis decide to opt to return to BYU? Sure, but at this point in Miles Davis's career, why would he really want to come back and play second fiddle at BYU if he can find a place where he can play more readily elsewhere? That's the only question I have about a guy like Miles Davis coming back out of the portal. Is he looking truthfully for a place where he can be the quote unquote guy for a football program, whether it's at a lower level or at the FBS level? We'll find out. But I just don't see Miles Davis at this juncture coming back out of the portal. But that could change. As soon as this podcast is published, he could say, you know what? Aidan Robbins is out. I'm right back in. Beyond that, BYU is going to have to look at the transfer portal. Can they find a guy that can come in and replace what you're losing in Aidan Robbins? Not likely, in my opinion, because you'd have to essentially promise that guy that he's going to be the guy over a guy like LJ Martin. A lot of guys will look and do their homework and say, we got this freshman over here, this LJ Martin. Why wouldn't he be your number one back? Why am I going to play second fiddle to him? That's the question you're going to have to sell people on when it comes to bringing in one of those talents. Now, could you find a guy in the case of for example, Miles Davis, where they've kind of been biding their time? They've shown flashes with the program that they are at. They've decided they need to go find another opportunity for themselves. Can you sell a guy like that on the opportunity at BYU and say that LJ Martin was healthy and then he got injured and it opened up an opportunity? That could be you. That's got to be the selling point for BYU, because frankly, beyond the situation outside of LJ Martin, I'm very, very wary of BYU's running backs. And it's nothing against some of these guys on the roster. Enoch Nawahine, great. Try-hard guy who really is we're trying to say a short yardage type back, puts his shoulder down and drives forward for 2 and 3 yards. Okay, you can utilize that in certain circumstances. Can he be a guy that can really tote the rock extensively? I don't think so. Will Hinckley Ropati return to BYU? Can he get a medical red shirt for this year and come back and offer more of what he offered in 2022 for the Cougars? That'd go a long way to helping bolster that running back position, but it's all up to Hinckley in terms of what he wants to do with his future. Obviously, he's dealt with a number of knee injuries. I think there's 2 season-ending knee injuries since he arrived at BYU as a junior college transfer, and we'll see if he ultimately decides to come back and run it back one more time for BYU. They also have Nukuluve Halu playing at running back for BYU, but late in the season, BYU did move him over to defense to play some linebacker to try him out of that position. Will that position switch stay permanent, or will he revert back to running back now, just with the fact that they don't have that depth? Halu was a highly, highly thought of running back coming out of Tooele High School, and BYU hoped that he would kind of grow into being a Harvey Unga type running back, a big body, all a 6'3", 6'4", 200 and some odd pounds. Can he come back and really show what he's capable of doing? We'll find out. It's just there's a lot of question marks right now for BYU at the running back position, and it all but is certain, I would say right now, that BYU will be hitting the transfer portal to find at least one guy to bring into the mix, because you also lose a guy like Deion Smith, who was capable. Obviously, he's a Power 5 running back at Colorado before coming in for one season at BYU. As my good friend Mitch Harper over at KSLSports.com points out, BYU does have former Ridgeline star Jovessa Damuni coming off of a mission. He was a kind of a do-everything player in high school for Ridgeline up there in the Logan area. Is he going to be really able to contribute right away for BYU at running back? That's the big question. And also he mentions that Dallin Havea was part of BYU's 2021 recruiting class, where he signed as an athlete out of Provo High School. Could he be an option at running back? But relying on anybody but LJ Martin right now in terms of saying that is a guy that you can count on going into 2024, that's very, very risky in my opinion, because you just cannot rely on the depth right now as it stands for BYU at running back. Could there be a guy on the roster you say, hey, maybe we want to make a position switch? Sure, but is that going to make it the running back position that much deeper? No, I don't think so. So really right now it's going to be the LJ Martin show. So LJ, obviously get in the weight room, get working on your skill set, get 100% recovered from whatever ailments and injuries you suffered during the 2023 campaign, because it appears that it's going to be the LJ Martin show in 2024 for BYU, barring something really unforeseen for the Cougars in terms of a big name running back coming in out of the portal. But I just don't see that scenario necessarily playing out. And crazily enough, I said in the open of today's show, going into 2024, I was expecting Aidan Robbins would return for BYU, and having him and LJ Martin seem like a two-headed monster at running back that really was going to bolster BYU in 2024. Well, with Miles Davis departing, now Aidan Robbins departing, and guys like Deion Smith being out of eligibility, suddenly the running back position has gone from one of relative strength to one of like, hit the panic button. We need to find somebody in the transfer portal. And I'm hoping that BYU has done some homework on guys already, maybe anticipating this, but we'll try and find out some more for you guys and pass along anything that we learn on this situation. But it is not ideal, frankly, for BYU's running backs right now to have that much uncertainty going into 2024. All right, coming up here in just a minute, we'll finish up today's show with some notes on BYU basketball. They are in action tonight, taking on the Denver Pioneers out at the Marriott Center. Also, some notes on BYU women's soccer. Also, a record that was broken in BYU track and field over the weekend that is almost as old as I am, and I'm pretty old. So we'll talk about all that as we continue on right here on Locked On Cougars. Let's get a quick word in on our friends over at LinkedIn, though. LinkedIn, of course, wants to help you guys out in terms of your hiring. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you guys need to check out LinkedIn Jobs. They have the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and, more importantly, for free. LinkedIn is not just another job board, my friends. It has over 1 billion professionals. LinkedIn does online. That's billion with a B, my friends, making it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy that, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours, thanks to our friends at LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing many hats and might not have the adequate time or resources to hire. That's why they want to make it as simple as possible for you guys. They even have just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker to make that right hire right away. So post your job for free today at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Of course, terms and conditions apply. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. I want to remind you guys, we have our new streaming channel. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league as well. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel right now. All right, a couple of notes before we go on today's show. Want to first off say congratulations to BYU, a former BYU assistant, Ilaisa Tuiaki. He has been hired as the new defensive line coach at Oregon State, returning to the program that he left to join Kalani Sitake when they both came to BYU. Obviously, Ilaisa was BYU's defensive coordinator for a long spell there, but he's the new defensive line coach officially at Oregon State. I was talking to some people last weekend who had actually seen him out on the recruiting trail and mentioned that he was already working for Oregon State in an official capacity, and they weren't sure why it hadn't been officially announced. But congratulations to Tuiaki landing on his feet. A great dude. I can tell you just from my personal interactions with Coach Tuiaki, Loved him, a great dude to talk to, but just the results, they were not there during his final stanza as BYU's defensive coordinator. Part of that also goes to the philosophy that Ed Lamb exerted on BYU's defense, and that's also why Ed Lamb's no longer at BYU as well. But congratulations to Tuiaki. He'll be doing good things, hopefully, for Oregon State and not stealing too many BYU offerees off of the Cougars' wish list. All right. Also, other notes. Congratulations to Libero Aria McComber, middle blocker Whitney McEwen Lorenas, and outside here, Aaron Livingston, They were each named to the College Sports Communicator CSC Academic All-District team yesterday. Congratulations to them. A solid season for BYU women's volleyball. Would like to make a deeper run into the NCAA tournament, but obviously a good showing for them, and those postseason honors trying to roll in. We'll have more of those as they roll in as well. And then I mentioned there is a record that was broken over the weekend at BYU's indoor track meet. It is almost as old as I am. Now, some of you know I'm in my mid-30s. I'm 36 years old, coming up on 37, but Sierra Tidwell Alphen broke a 34-year-old record, BYU school record in the high jump, clearing 6 feet 2.5 inches Saturday afternoon at the Smith Fieldhouse. Really, really cool to see this. I don't know why I missed it in our Monday edition of the podcast, but congratulations all the same. Now, I am 36 years old, so that record's been around I was 2 years old when that record was originally set. And then also, she jumped 6'2.5". I am about 6 foot on a very good day. I range between about 5'11" and 3/4 and 6 foot, literally right on the head. And that's a good day if I stretch out really, really well. I get to 6 feet. She would have cleared me by 2.5, maybe 3 inches. With the jump that she performed on Saturday. So congratulations. That's really, really cool stuff. And obviously, when you break a school record that old, that is not insignificant. All right, final note on today's show is the BYU's number 18 ranked men's basketball program is back in action. They got to open a 5-game homestand, taking on the Denver Pioneers for the first time in Provo since 1998. Yes, we're going back to the 90s. BYU will be taking on the Pioneers. It'll be on Big 12 now on ESPN+. Dave McCann and Blaine Fowler will have the call on TV. Obviously, Greg Wrubell and Mark Durant will have it on BYU radio as well. Big opportunity for BYU to bounce back here after the loss to Utah. No time to rest. They're in the middle of finals as well, so I wonder how much of a distraction that may be for BYU. But Denver is not anything to write home a ton about. They are 6-4. They have won 4 of its last 5 games to sit at 6-4 on the season. They have a very, very good scorer in Tommy Bruner. He's third in the nation, scoring an average of 24 points per game. He has scored in double figures in all 10 games this season, including a 33 performance against SIUE. I think it's Southern Illinois, something Evansville. I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but nonetheless, a big opportunity for BYU to get back into the win column. I'm expecting the Cougars to handle their business and take care of Denver. 7 o'clock tip tonight. This feels like one of those perfect get-right games because Denver is not necessarily a pushover, but they're also a team that you should be able to comfortably blow out and obviously just get feeling better about yourselves. You will also, speaking of BYU, see them in action this Saturday as they take on Georgia State at the Marriott Center. So 2 big games this weekend, just simply for the fact that BYU is trying to get back into the win column, push their record to 10-1 on the year, and really get themselves going once again. The other thing about the BYU basketball program is how soon can you get Fousseyni Traore back? That is a huge question mark that I've got because I think the Utah game showed how critical Foose is for BYU's hope for success in Big 12 play this year. I'm totally okay with him missing the remainder of the non-conference slate, but once it comes to the Big 12 conference slate kicking off in early January, you got to hope that he is somewhat close to returning. The other guy I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing soon, I heard he had a little bit of a setback in terms of his return. It looked like he was a little bit closer a couple of weeks ago, is Dawson Baker. Now, Dawson Baker maybe was the most accomplished of all of BYU's transfer portal additions this year, playing at UC Irvine, an all-conference performer in the Big West. If you can get him and Foose back on the court and start showing what they're capable of, it's going to make me feel a lot better about BYU and their chances to pick off some wins here and there when it comes to Big 12 play, because they're going to come into premium. Big 12 play is shaping up to be an absolute gauntlet that BYU is going to have to run here. You need as many bodies healthy as you possibly can muster. If anybody, let me also say this, if any of the other guys on the roster, I'm not trying to speculate on anything, but if anybody is dealing with anything physically that is limiting them right now, sit them down for these games against Denver, Georgia State. You got Bellarmine coming up next week. I think you got the game against Wyoming at the end of the month. Any of those games, those guys don't feel right, let them sit it out. You can afford those games to let those guys heal up, because the whole focus now is looking at Big 12 play, and it looks just absolutely ridiculous what BYU is going to have to go up against. But the biggest guy for me is how soon can you get Fousseyni Traore back? Because BYU is already pretty thin in the front court. They were even thinner than they were last year. No, they're not thinner right now. They were thin last year, and extremely thin. They added some bodies, obviously Ali Khalifa and the like, and having a guy like Dawson Baker, who's got a little bit of size to him as well, can help defend on the interior. But Noah Waterman was kind of Olay defense on Saturday against Utah. He's not offering much in terms of rim protection at 6'11". Nothing against Ali Khalifa, but he doesn't have the athleticism to really be that rim protector for BYU. So right now you're relying on Atiki Aliatiki to really defend the rim in the short stints he's playing out there. So you need to get Foose back. I know that Foose is undersized, but his wingspan, his ability to go and get tough buckets around the rim, and even maybe make an occasional jumper, those are all critical things. And I'm fingers crossed that Foose is back by the time BYU takes on Cincinnati in early January. Mark Pope said it in post game a couple of games ago that it could be any day that Foose just wakes up. He said it happened last year when he had that hamstring injury. Said he woke up and said, "Hey coach, I'm feeling good," and then he was good to go. So fingers crossed that Foose gets back on the court in short order, because without him, it's a daunting proposition to think of BYU going up against some of the bigs they're going to face off against in Big 12 play. And just if Utah can do what they did with their bigs against BYU in that circumstance and really kind of bludgeon the Cougars on the interior, imagine what guys like Hunter Dickinson from Kansas on down the list, some of these elite big men that the Big 12 has, maybe some of the best big men in all of college basketball, they'll be licking their chops. Looking at what BYU has on the front court if a guy like Foose is unavailable. And even then, they're still thinking, okay, this guy is 6'6". I'm going to go in out there and dominate him. You just need to have as many healthy bodies as you can muster for BYU, because this is setting up to be a really, really interesting 2-month run through conference play. It kicks off January 6th. It wraps up the first week of March. It is a 2-month gauntlet of really proving, okay, how good is BYU truthfully year one in the Big 12? Are they the team that's kind of been this front runner most of the season, beating up on the likes of Arizona State, San Diego State, etc., NC State as well in that mix? Or are they a team that's been a little bit of a paper tiger? Are they going to get exposed by the Big 12? That is a huge question mark that remains to be answered. And I think Utah, that loss showed BYU what they are really lacking in terms of what they need on the interior. And hurry back, Foose. Hurry back if at all possible. All right, enough of me belly aching about injuries in basketball, but we're going to wrap it up here. A big thank you once again for your guys' support of the podcast. Please continue to subscribe, rate, and review the show. You've got family parties this holiday season. If you've not done so already, please share this podcast with your family and friends. Tell them about it. It's a daily dose. I know that Jeff Hansen co-opted that, the daily dose with Give 'em Hell Brigham, but it is a daily dose of BYU sports. You do it every single day without fail, with very, very rare exceptions, and appreciate all of your guys' support. It's been a 5-year-long project. We are still grinding on 1,500 episodes deep, and honestly, I can say I'm having the time of my life doing it. It is a ton of fun to be talking with you guys every single day. So once again, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Thank you to all of you who are everydayers as well. And of course, we'll be back with you guys again tomorrow, talking all things BYU right here on the Locked On Cougars podcast. See ya.